turn your engine off. Pull up the handbrake. Pull on the bonnet release lever and open the bonnet. Delicately, pull on each of the 4 corners of the engine cover to unclip it. Once removed, ensure that you unclip the breather hose before removing it completely. To do this, pull on the white connector located next to the oil fill cap, making little back and forth movements. Open the oil fill plug. This will increase the oil flow when performing an oil change. In order to drain your vehicle, you must first lift the front section of your car. This will enable you to access the drain nut. Lift the front of your vehicle and put it into axle stands. We strongly suggest watching the tutorial, raising your vehicle safely before carrying out this step. If the front plastic crankcase is present, you should now remove it to have full access to the drain nut. To do this, take a multi-bit screwdriver and a 25mm and a 30mm Torx socket. Unscrew the screws, and once all removed, slide the crankcase backwards to free it from the holding studs. Don't forget to place a used oil collector beneath. You can learn how to make one by watching another of our videos, How to Make a Collector for Liquids. Unscrew the drain nut with a 19mm spanner. Start the process with a wrench. And finish off by hand. Be careful on the last few turns of the screw, the oil may suddenly squirt out. Anticipate this by placing a container underneath to collect the oil. Let the oil run out for 10 minutes or so. On VAG Group vehicles, the seal does not separate from the drain nut. We recommend replacing the old drain nut with a new one each time you drain the oil. Reassemble by hand and finish tightening with a 90mm spanner. When you change the oil in your car, you must also replace the oil filter. To collect the oil from inside, place a container underneath the filter. Position yourself above the engine cover. Then, to access the oil filter, you must remove the heat shield of the exhaust manifold. Using a 10mm spanner, release all 4 screws, finishing off the process by hand. Remove the heat shield of the exhaust manifold. You should now be able to see the oil filter. To collect the oil from inside, place a container underneath the filter. Using a socket wrench and a 30mm socket, unscrew the oil filter. Finish removing them by hand. When it has been released, turn it upwards to avoid spilling any oil. Compare the new filter with the old one to ensure that they're identical. With the new filter in hand, lightly coat the seal with oil on the screwed side. This will help avoid too much friction between the seal and the engine block. Friction can reduce the seal's water tightness. Coating with oil also facilitates assembly. Reconnect the filter until it makes contact with the oil filter frame. When this happens, add an additional half turn to tighten. Put the heat shield of the exhaust manifold back in place. Don't forget to insert the holding lead for the wire bundle by putting the lower holding screws back on. Put the protective crankcase back in place. Now, you have to put the oil back into the motor. You have to be very careful and precise when doing this part of the job. Firstly, lower your car back to the ground and check the oil level. This is something that can only be done when the vehicle is flat. Now, add the oil into the engine. Begin by putting 90% of the suggested amount. This will leave you a large enough margin to adjust the level of oil appropriately. You can find the exact amount of oil suggested for your car in the description of the tutorial. Close the oil fill plug. Put the engine cover back. To do this, start by putting the breather hose in place, pulling on the rubber seal found on the connector. Then, put it through the insertion hole located on the fill stopper. Finally, put the connector back in. Put the engine cover back on, clipping it in the four corners. Ensure that it is locked in place. Start the engine and let the car run for 5 seconds. This will fill the oil filter. Remove the oil gauge and wipe it down. Plunge it back into its sheath. Remove it again and check the oil level. The optimal level is near the maximum, but be careful to never go over it. Based on the level indicated on the gauge, readjust to obtain the optimum amount. Operation completed.